swept from Rachel to Julie and back again, wondering why I seemed to be the only one concerned about the fact that a group of 30-something-year-old men had just introduced themselves by such bizarre monikers. Were they part of some preppy motorcycle gang? "They're fighter pilots," Julie announced with a grin, her body angled toward the one called Merlin. Oh, hell to the no. Considering Shaw Air Force Base was only an hour away from Columbia and 2 hours from my hometown, I'd always considered it a stroke of good fortune that I'd managed to avoid meeting any of the F-16 pilots who called South Carolina their temporary home. Apparently, my luck had changed. I'd known one fighter pilot in my entire life, and since that experience had left me completely and utterly fucked, and not just in a screaming orgasm sort of way, once had been enough.
"Why don't you sit next to me?"
Bandit asked, patting the seat of an empty bar stool. Rachel and Julie flashed me encouraging smiles. One of the great things about making new friends was the fact that they didn't know your every failure or all of your flaws. But that meant they also had no clue that this was basically my own personal version of hell. One night. I'd just wanted one night to go out, have fun, meet a cute guy, and maybe get laid. Okay, so sex was definitely off the table considering Ladytown had gone into lockdown mode at the term fighter pilot. But that didn't mean I still couldn't have a good time. I mean, it wasn't like Eric was here. And how many F-16 pilots could there be in the world? Maybe they didn't even know him. I climbed up onto the bar stool, a lead weight settling in my stomach. I'd stay for a drink, then all bets were off.
"Can I get you something?"
Bandit asked. "That's okay, I'll get it." I turned and caught the bartender's attention, ordering a glass of wine for myself, feeling like I'd brought the group's mood down. Everyone was in full-on flirt mode, the couples clearly paired off for the night, and I felt badly for the one they called Bandit for getting stuck with me. I turned back to face the group while I waited for the bartender to pour my glass of wine, pasting a smile on my face. "So, how long have you guys been stationed at Shaw?"
"I've been there for a year."
He gestured toward Easy and Merlin.
"They're visiting from Breyer Air Force Base, here for a buddy's bachelor party last night."
I heard Breyer and my world came to a crashing stop. Motherfucker. The world really was way too small. I wasn't one of those girls who kept in touch with her exes. Not the ex, at least. The one who took my heart and shattered it, then ran over it with his car and for an encore set it on fire. We weren't friends on social media. Everyone who knew me from before, who'd known us, knew better than to bring 'em up with me. But at the same time, we were both from a small town. And even though he hadn't come home for the better part of a decade, he was the local boy who'd hit it big, the troublemaker who'd turned it around, joined the military, and become an officer and fighter pilot. So I'd heard that Eric was living in Oklahoma, that he flew F-16s there. And despite all of my best intentions not to keep tabs on him, he was frequently in the back of my mind. I'd waited for years, my heart in my throat, wondering when someone would mention in passing that he'd gotten married, mentally steeling myself for the inevitable blow that never came. Then again, he'd made his choice clear a decade ago when I'd lost out to a hunk of metal. Maybe he didn't wear a wedding band on his finger, but he'd promised till death do us part all the same. It was on the tip of my tongue to ask if they knew Eric. I figured the fighter community was pretty small, the F-16 community even smaller, and Breyer its own little world. But I wasn't sure I wanted to know the answer. On the one hand, didn't everyone want to win the Who's Doing Better contest after a breakup? I didn't want him to be suffering or anything. But if he was desolate in my absence, had developed a weird fetish where he'd stopped clipping his toenails and had lived a hermit's life for the last decade, I wouldn't exactly shed a tear.
"We were going to head over to Tin Roof and see if there's any music playing. Want to come?"
Bandit asked. "Yeah, maybe I'll come for a bit." I could just casually mention him. No big deal, right?
"We're just waiting on our buddy Thor,"
Bandit whispered in my ear, a flirty smile on his face.